For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. On infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections.
If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious.
Violence and vandalism is being led by Antifa and other radical left-wing groups who are terrorizing the innocent, destroying jobs, hurting businesses, and burning down buildings. They are coming after me because I am fighting for you. That's what's happening.
Greetings, fellow thought criminals, and thank you for joining the insurrection. I'm Michael Lauber. This is Derek Evans. It's Wednesday. It's freezing cold outside, but it's another glorious day in America's new golden age.
That it is, my man. It's a great day right now. You've got President Trump, who's outworking the left. He's going to be signing more executive orders later today. We're going to cover everything from yesterday. As always, guys, we got an awesome show lineup for you guys. And as always, like, share, subscribe, all those good things. Regardless of what platform you're watching on, if you're watching live, give us a give us a comment. I'll do my best to give you guys a shout out. We got oh man, I just saw some. We got Thaddeus already hopping over here in the X chat, and then we got Kelly Song in the Rumble chat, and then we got Dan Dreyer over here as well, and then Josh C is me asking everybody to keep him in his prayers. He is actually watching from the ER with chest pain. God bless you, brother, and thanks for still hanging out with us and watching the show, I suppose. God bless you, man.
Yeah. Well, pray for Josh that this is a trip to the hospital. They can fix the problem and it doesn't break the bank. Guys, well, before we jump into anything, I got a little clip I want to play from you. Everybody's talking about this interview with Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and Sean Hannity. I'm not exactly a giant Hannity fan, but man, were there some moments in this interview. So let me go ahead and run this one on TDS.
You're going to rescue astronauts. And now, and again, you do all of this. I would think liberals would love the fact that you have the biggest electric vehicle company in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be adored by the left, you know.
Yeah, not anymore.
Less so these days.
He killed that, huh?
I mean, less so.
I really did it.
Well, I mean, this whole sort of like, you know, they call it like Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. And I don't, you don't realize how real this is until like you can't reason with people. So like I was at a friend's birthday party in LA, just a birthday dinner, and everything was like a nice, quiet dinner, and everyone was behaving normally. And then I happened to mention, this is before the election, like a month or two before, I happened to mention the president's name. And it was like they got shot with a dart in the jugular that contained like methamphetamine and rabies, okay? And I'm like, what is wrong? Like, guys, like, you can't have like a normal conversation. Yeah. And it's like, it's like they become completely irrational.
He's exactly right. You know, and this is what we're seeing play out in real time right now, and part of why the left continues to lose supporters and voters, because they know this isn't normal. Like, this is complete just derangement.
Absolutely. A quick shout out to Sean in the Getter chat and US30M1 over there in the Getter chat as well. Appreciate you guys. So there's a couple things to unpack from not just that, the entire interview. We could probably talk the next hour on that. We're not going to, but we could. But one of the things that I love when I watch these interviews together or these situations is the personality differences. So, you got Trump, who's a lot more reserved, if you will, a little bit more, I don't want to say professional, because I don't think that's the probably the right word, but more kind of politically professional, if you will. And you got Elon Musk, who in a lot of ways is like a giant kid. And I say that in a good way, you know what I mean? With his outgoing personality, wears his emotions and personality out on his sleeve, like the whole thing where he's, doing this, like nobody else would ever do that in that situation. I love it. I think it's awesome. And then the other thing is the fact that they did used to love Elon Musk. He was, the green climate change, champion, if you will. But as soon as he started supporting President Trump, they didn't care about anything else. Orange man bad, and therefore you are bad as well. And then one other thing that really stuck out to me in that interview, is talked about a little bit in that clip, is the fact that we have astronauts trapped and stuck in space right now.
Yeah.
Number one, I can't even imagine being trapped in space. And now imagine being trapped in space and you hear from your government who sent you there that they are not coming to get you. There's nothing they can do. All while you find out they're sending all these billions and billions of dollars to other countries and helping with all this stuff, and you're stranded up here in space. And Elon Musk said in the interview that they were left up there for political reasons, and that they were going to do their best to go get them. This is going to be a very historic moment to watch this attempt to rescue these people, and God willing, it all goes smoothly.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They were supposed to be there 8 days, and they've been up there, I think it's like right around 390 days right now. I might be off by a couple days there. But yeah, supposed to be a little over a week, and now they've been there over a year. And for purely political reasons, Musk offered early on to put a rescue capsule on one of his rockets, send it up, bring them back to Earth. Or I guess re-entry capsule, not rescue capsule. But anyway, offered to do this and said no. And it was purely based on politics. They didn't want to give Musk a victory, especially not now that, he's bought Twitter and opened up the floodgates for them there, opened up free speech, and is not just censoring the real news for the sake of the narrative. So, yeah, I mean, it's terrible that they'll put that over rescuing these two astronauts instead of just doing the right thing. I mean, they would have been in and out of the headlines in a few days. They wouldn't have taken any real political damage on it, but that's their priority, and not rescuing these two Americans that have been stranded up there for over a year now. But, we might as well also, before we get into the serious news of the day, gloat a little bit, because D.C. housing market sees increase in homes for sale as federal workers are laid off. Well, that's not and we're not just talking a little increase. This headline really doesn't do it justice. It's sprung up by thousands of %, and it's actually so bad now that the average house price in D.C. is crashing by, I think it's $139,000, because there's so many on the market at once. And D.C. is not this leftist mecca anymore. So there's not people moving in wanting to take these houses. They're probably going to sit on the market for a while. And they're going to have to sell to conservatives that are there to straighten out government as all the leftists flee D.C.
Absolutely. I'll give a quick shout out to Caroline for Congress over here in the X chat. Appreciate you for tuning in, Caroline, and all you do working to save our country. But yeah, you're exactly correct, man. This housing situation is, in my opinion, just getting started. And the reason being is, historically, there's some turnover around this time of, presidential changes. There's some obviously more turnover than normal in Washington, D.C. area. But the difference here is there's not anybody else coming in to replace those people who are leaving. They're firing thousands and thousands and thousands of people, as they should, but they're not bringing them in to replace them with other people. So that is going to be interesting. I also wonder, with this whole thing of, Virginia is, as I would say, is officially a purple state at this point. Obviously, it leans blue, but I would say it's officially purple. It's going to be interesting to see if do we fire enough of these left-wing bureaucrats who live in that area right there. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of people and spin-off jobs and everything else that we could help shape Virginia into being more of a red state as more of these left-wing extremists move out of that area. That's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and it's not going to just be that they're leaving the area, but it's all the dollars they're not putting into the local races there to overtake the state. So if there are, and I imagine it is going to be a very significant number of people out of there before the next election cycle, before the midterms. And if they're not there to spend money, they don't live there anymore. And like you said, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of voters left, because let's not forget their spouses. Even if they identify as a asexual space toaster, there's probably still somebody else in that picture leaving with them. In the grant funding that's disappearing as we're undercovering a lot of this stuff, they're not going to have nearly as much cash to spend in this next election, and they're going to be on the defense. So, I mean, this is going to lead to real change. And let's also not forget one other story that we've touched on before that's directly related to this, and that's that we're seeing record numbers of searches right now for criminal defense attorneys, offshore banking, how to open a Swiss bank account, and what countries don't have extradition treaties. So I think there's going to be a lot of people know exactly what's coming. They know they've been violating the law for years. There's going to be repercussions, and I think there's a lot of them that are going to flee or disappear and try to fight this stuff in court. But they know exactly what they've done wrong, and they know what's coming over the horizon.
Absolutely. Well, quick shout out to FG in the Getter chat. And then Dan Dreyer says in the Rumble chat, Dan Dreyer says Arlington real estate is plunging right now. And it is. That whole area right now is just plunging. And, I was mentioning a little bit about the secondary jobs, but you got to think all these people, especially the extremist versions, they're the ones that are going to the drag show bars, to the restaurants that support that stuff, and all these sorts of things. So it's going to have a trickle down effect, this, and I'm here for it. I think it's awesome. And hopefully I want to abolish these 3-letter agencies, but hopefully Trump can at least move some of them out to other parts of the country. Like, for instance, imagine the Department of Agriculture. If it has to exist, I want to abolish it, but if it's going to exist, put it in Iowa. Start moving these things around. And then I believe that would also, I think if they did that, Virginia becomes a red state pretty quickly. I really do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's exactly what they should be doing anyway. The USDA, Department of Agriculture, things like that, move them out to where their base is, the people that they're serving. Well, not really serving, harassing, but move them out closer to where they belong. And then again, we need to gut and clean up a lot of these agencies anyway. If not eliminated, they need to be crippled. To where they can only do their assigned function, and there's somebody watching them every minute of the day, so they're not somehow figuring out a way to shift funds for drag shows in Uganda. Let's go ahead and pull our next story here, because we got more good news to cover. Whoa, Doge reveals $4.7 trillion of taxpayer money went into government black hole and is untraceable. So this is the real reason they didn't want Doge to get a look at the Treasury's books and find out where all these payments are going. Now, out of this $4.7 trillion, it's not all waste, fraud, and abuse. Some of this is just funds that were allocated that they can't trace because the Treasury wasn't doing their job. And as these payments go out, they're supposed to assign to them what bill backed this up, what piece of legislation allowed this to go forward and this payment to be lawful and authorized. So this is, again, meant to probably hide. I wouldn't be surprised if there's $1 trillion in mismanaged payments in this. But this is, again, just to hide things and to make it more difficult for them to go back and be audited and for us to trace where our money's really going and whether or not those expenditures were actually authorized or not.
I would say a small portion of that would be incompetence. I believe that you could chalk that up to that, meaning that somebody came in, they said, I don't know what to do with this. And the person training them said, you just leave it blank and go. That I would say that's incompetence at that point to do that. But obviously this started as some, and it's hard to argue that this is not at the very least abuse. I would say it's fraudulent, but I'm just saying it's hard to argue that it's not at least abuse. I don't know how anyone on the left could be opposed to keeping track of our money and balancing knowing where the money's being spent. I don't understand what the controversy is with this. There's $4.7 trillion that, let's just pretend there's been no waste, no fraud, no abuse, no incompetence. Like, let's just pretend everything went exactly where it's supposed to go. It doesn't matter if they can't show their work and show us that the money is where it's supposed to go. It doesn't matter when they're trying to audit and determine the future budgets and everything else. If you don't have a basic middle school level accounting being done here at this level. Any small business in the entire country keeps track of this stuff on a simple Excel sheet, if nothing else. And you're trying to tell me that our government is not capable of keeping track of how they're spending $4.7 trillion of our money? This is unacceptable. And the fact that it's allowed to continue and do this as long as it has is also unacceptable. The Republicans who have been in charge for the last 20 years or been elected for the last 20, 30 years, they're just as guilty in all of this for continuing to vote to continue funding these exact agencies that are not doing what they're supposed to do, and even as simple as simple accounting, if you will. The Republicans are just as guilty in all of this.
Yeah, and this again just illustrates why Trump is right in firing a lot of these government employees. They're not doing their job. They're not doing what's expected of them. They're not tracking where you and I, our tax dollars are being spent, or that it is a legal authorized payment. And that's to me, it seems like a pretty low standard. That again, if you're doing the accounting, you're issuing these giant checks, you're doing these wire transfers, and you can't even plug in a field on there of what authorized this payment, then you shouldn't be working in that job. And we clearly need somebody else in there that will do their job. So something does come across their desk, and let's say it isn't tied to a piece of legislation, that rather than just authorizing the payment, they're asking questions and they're making sure this is allowed to go through to begin with. And this isn't just more, essentially money laundering of U.S. taxpayer dollars. So, good on them for revealing this. And again, this is why there have to be huge, massive changes in D.C., and we need real accountability. And as you said, this does go back to all the members of Congress, all the senators, all the House reps, everybody else that's let this go on for a long time without intervening. This isn't like this isn't new. That's what should make a lot of this. It makes this even worse. This has gone on for 20 plus years, as we've seen with other departments. And again, just the tip of the iceberg. And again, we haven't even got to the Pentagon and other places yet. They're still going through things item by item there at the IRS. So we're going to see even more reports like this out in the near future.
Absolutely. Well, shout out to Bustin' Frauds over here in the X chat. Appreciate you for tuning in. Dan Dreyer brings up a really good point. It says any politician against finding the fraud is guilty of the fraud. And that's exactly the truth. Anyone, and I'll take it a step further, anyone who is against finding the fraud, even if they're not an elected official, then you are brainwashed and you are in a cult. I'm sorry. The left tries to say that Trump, that MAGA is a cult. The only people you have to literally be in a cult if you have been convinced that the people trying to find out how your money is spent are the bad guys. I mean, think about this. You work every day. They steal your money. We know they're sending it off to all this stuff. And now you have a group of people coming in and they said, we're going to find exactly how the money they're stealing from you. We're going to find out exactly how it's being spent, how it's being allocated, where it's going. Is there any fraud? Is there anybody stealing from you and self-enriching themselves? And you have a group of people who have been brainwashed into saying, no, these guys are terrible. Don't show me all the, is it because you already know and you can't handle the truth? Or have you been convinced that the government is perfectly fine? And if the government is perfectly fine, is it always fun? Or is it only fun when your Democrat people are in charge? That's what's confusing to me. Those of us who are accused of being in the cult, we have no problem saying Republicans are just as guilty for all of this. We're not blaming just the Democrats for this. We're going to blame a lot of this on the illegitimate Biden regime because it's so fresh and a lot of this stuff happened under his watch over the last 4 years. But by and large, we did not get to this point of $36 trillion in debt, $4.7 trillion unaccounted for and one little thing there. We didn't get to that point by Democrats trying to do all this and Republicans, fighting the good fight, trying to prevent that. No, they both are guilty of getting us to this point. We can say that. The question is, can the people on the left also say that and point some fingers at their own party on this and then unify and say, you know what? I can disagree with MAGA on everything else, but I do agree that we deserve to know that our money is accounted for and it's going to be spent for good use. I don't understand what the issue is with that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think this is exactly why Trump's popularity continues to go up. despite the best efforts from all the Democrat mouthpieces posing as journalists in the dinosaur media. They're doing everything they can to make the argument that somehow we shouldn't know what's on the books, and keeping all these things concealed is a good idea. Whereas the average Democrat voter, even when they hear that, they're like, that doesn't really make sense. This is a company or a person, and they had no accountability. They couldn't tell you who all these payments were to or whatever, and they were getting an audit. They'd be in jail. The IRS would be 5 feet up their butt, because you have to be able to prove basic things like this. But I think Tim Burchett and a number of other people have figured out what's really going on. GOP rep Tim Burchett says Democrats are terrified because Doge is going to find a paper trail of money that went overseas and ended up back in the pockets of lawmakers. And I think this is the real issue, is they're afraid a lot of these money laundering schemes are going to be uncovered, and that even if some of them can't be prosecuted for some of these things, that they're on the board of a foundation that got USAID money that was supposed to go for, new shoes and Rwanda. But somehow a bunch of it got kicked back to their foundation. They then got paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars for being on the board. I think that's what's going to be uncovered. Things like that some of them, that even if they aren't illegal, they're horrible. They show the people enriching themselves off our dime, and the ones where we can prosecute, we need to. If they violated the law in any way, we need to make sure they go to jail and they don't see the light of day. I've got a clip from this here real quick, and then Derek can go ahead and respond.
And how did we end up where we are?
Well, that's an excellent question. And when you see people here in Tennessee paying 50% of their income to state, federal, and local taxes through through everything else, fees and everything else, and then they see us sending literally billions overseas to our enemies. I've uncovered $40 million going to the Taliban. A guy named Sean Ryan over Middle Tennessee, former Navy SEAL, podcaster. He and another guy named Legend had brought this to my attention. And, last term, I could not even get the Democrats to bring it up in the Senate. It passed unanimous in the House, not even a question, because they're going to have to admit they made a mistake. And they've continuously made a mistake, and they did it on purpose, is the worst part about it. And this graph that you're seeing, and that's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a paper trail come back to Washington, D.C., and that's why I think a lot of people are nervous, and you'll see a lot of retirements, because they are stealing from the American taxpayer, and now they've got their hand caught in the cookie jar, and all they can do is attack Elon Musk.
Man. Well, first of all, Tim Burchett is a patriot. He is awesome. If you guys are not familiar with him, you need to follow him. He is in that Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, that sort of area of freedom and individual liberties. I love that guy. He's a true patriot. He's exactly correct, though. I mean, that is what's happening. We know that, and these people are fearful of that. And I'm so happy that someone who's in that position is using their platform to actually call that out and say the quiet part out loud, if you will. And then I do want to say, Josh C. is me over here in the Rumble chat has brought up a good point too. He said, you can be sure that these people who are whining about the money, the people who are complaining about Doge, if they found out that their own personal finances were being wasted, they would literally have a cow. So why is it okay for taxpayer money to be wasted? And it's almost like these people don't feel like it's real money. It's really strange. It's almost, and in a way, we've been conditioned and brainwashed into believing that because it's taken out of your check before you even get it. It's happened your entire life. It is almost like that's not real money, because you never see that money. I almost wish that you were required to save all this money all year long and pay it all at the end of the year in one lump sum. And I think people would feel a little bit different about taxes if they had to separate from it. But I do feel like there's some disconnect there from the average leftist, if you will, and the tax dollars.
Oh, agreed. They treat it like monopoly money, and in a lot of ways, it really is. All right, guys, we got to take a quick break here from our sponsors, and then we'll be right back with even more.
Play your trump card and support Make America Great Again with the donor deck. Get your hands on 52 exquisite playing cards, each with powerful quotes from scripture and stunning artwork. Plus, showcase your MAGA pride with a beautiful display case and a reversible challenge coin. By purchasing the donor deck, you become an official donor, contributing to our cause and helping President Trump reclaim the White House. Get your donor deck today and play your part in making America great again.
Go to the Patriot.tv store and get your donor deck now. Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for US-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs here on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. Open an account with Old Glory Bank. We want to take away power from the left. That means we need to take it away from the institutions that they control. One way we can do that is by moving our money out of the big monster mega banks that went along with all this stuff, monitoring purchases, handed over information to the feds without warrants. All their abuses of power is by leaving their institutions and forming our own. And that's why Old Glory Bank exists. All right, guys.
Hold on, Mike. I do have some breaking news. Just a quick update. FEMA sources have now confirmed that the Trump administration is drafting a termination list for all employees who have been involved in DEI initiatives, climate justice, or racial equity. They are all getting terminated, and it's awesome.
Good. Well, I wonder how long it takes a federal judge to pop up and try to overrule that. We're going to get to some of these stories here in a little bit. There's a story that's not getting enough attention. But, maybe they'll do the right thing, like the acting director for Social Security Administration, who stepped down after blocking investigation into fraud scheme exposed by Doge. So, we covered this the other day, the unbelievable number of Americans that are over the age of 120 and that they continue to get Social Security payments. Well, at least she had the good grace once she got exposed for this fraud that's gone on and for blocking efforts to investigate it. At least she stepped down.
Yeah, absolutely. I was happy to see it. We need more of this. It's amazing because these people are kind of removing themselves from these positions. They always want to talk about fight, all this stuff, but when it comes time to actually do something, they're all stepping down, they're jumping ship, they're leaving, they're taking their ball, and they're going home, all because they can't push their left-wing agenda. That's the crazy part. Trump's not coming in and saying, you have to bow to me, you have to worship me, you have to do whatever the MAGA movement says, you have to do, he's not said that at all. He just said, you can't continue to sexually mutilate children. You can't continue to bow and worship at the altar of climate change. You can't continue to aid and abet foreign invaders, to terrorists who are trying to illegally enter our country. You can't do those three things. And if so, and that's it. And these people are like, I can't do those three things, then I'm quitting. and these are some high level positions. I mean, think about these people. Realistically, these are career people. They started at, most of them, I would imagine, started at the bottom of some government bureaucracy and have moved. These people have this mental ideology because they've been groomed by the system to have this mental ideology. That should really scare everyone when you really think about how deep the swamp really is, how powerful the swamp really is. These people, all of them who have been groomed and brainwashed through that system, all believe the exact same things and believe that those three things that we just discussed should be allowed to happen. That is a scary thought when you really think about just the mindset of the average government employee.
And the fact that they can't look at the massive fraud that's being uncovered and just say, yep, this needs to be fixed. That instead they have to stick to their leftist ideology and pretend the problem is something that it isn't. Well, Stephen Miller was out there, and he's been on a roll lately. Actually, we got a video I'll probably play for him maybe tomorrow. Stephen Miller exposes foreign fraud rings. Foreign nationals use fake Social Security numbers to steal billions in taxpayer benefits through the IRS. Full scope unknown until DOJ accesses records. But yeah, we've talked about the Social Security Administration. A lot of this fraud was, again, going to overseas where it should have been caught. This should have triggered, at the very least, a review and then a termination of the payments and prosecutions in a lot of these cases, but nothing's being done. But wait till you see how many people are fraudulently ripping off the IRS and using things like work opportunity tax credits, other things like that, to extract even more money out of the federal government. But these are people that aren't paying taxes anyway. They are not net taxpayers. Instead, they are net expenditures, that they are using our tax system to defraud the American people of money that's supposed to be set aside. And again, this is a program that needs to end, but like EIC, earned income credit, things like that, they're using that to rip off, $7,000, $10,000, $8,000, $14,000. I can't even remember what the limit is now, where this is money that's just paid out to them. We're adding children onto their tax return that don't exist. And a lot of this is money that's flowing overseas, but we're continuing to pay it out.
Absolutely. Well, man, there's a lot to unpack right now. I got a couple of really good comments I want to button up from earlier. D, which is goes by Busting Frauds over here on X, says realtors and home sellers need to be aware of new buyers from the DC, Virginia areas. So if you're in an area somewhere and you got somebody looking to buy a house, your neighbor, and they're coming from DC, Virginia, you should be aware that they're probably a left-wing extremist on that. I thought that was funny. And then shout out to Pita Chips and Brent for being over here as well. So. But I mean, dude, this whole thing is crazy. Go ahead, Mike.
I got a recommendation. If you have a buyer from the DC area, you need to hang a big Trump flag or portrait over your fireplace first, and then make sure they don't want to buy the house.
That's exactly right. But back to the Stephen Miller thing, they also disclosed that Social Security, for some reason, has 60 million extra numbers than what we have people as citizens right now. I understand there's going to be some extra because you have people dying and everything, and you got to have. I get that. But 60 million extra active numbers than what we currently have citizens for. So, I mean, the citizen population is roughly, these are just rough numbers for any fact checkers out there, 330 million or whatever. And they've got 390 million Social Security numbers. Like, that makes zero sense. But I'll tell you what does make sense is we've been wondering, where did all of these Joe Biden voters come from? Well, I would imagine that the 300-year-old person who is still drawing a Social Security check most likely also voted for Joe Biden from the grave. That is what's happening right now. So we've got millions and millions of people who are still receiving Social Security checks who are well beyond the oldest living person in the world. Millions of these people. I think it's 12 million, I think we figured up. Over 12 million people who are receiving Social Security checks over the age of 120 years old. That is where the left Joe Biden voters are coming from. I guarantee you, if somebody goes in and does some research, they will be able to connect those dots. The same people cashing checks are also voting in every election, and I bet you they vote Democrat. I actually tell my family all the time, when I die, don't let me vote Democrat.
Yeah, well, there may be an opportunity in our near future to help get into that and expose that. I don't know if we're going to get to the story today, but there's an avenue and a path then to reinvestigate certain things around the 2020 election, including where did all these voters come from in different states' roles. We've talked about this ad nauseum on here prior to the election. But it's still something that is on the Trump administration's mind. It's just there's more important issues to tackle first, but there's going to be an opportunity in the near future to open up some cases there. But let's go ahead and pull these next couple stories. They are all related. Crazed Biden judge signals she may block Trump's executive order on transgender troops. Says the assertion that only two genders exist is not biologically correct. Well, I'm pretty sure it is biologically correct, and you know what? It's also scientifically correct. And why do these judges always just look like Looney Tunes? We got another one. Federal judge temporarily blocks Trump's firing of CIA officers involved in DEI programs. Well, I think a couple of these judges are going to get some bad news here coming soon because there may have been a trap sprung that was set up years ago for situations just like this.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we were talking a little bit off air. I've been wondering, do these judges, like, I'm starting to think that the judge positions have become so, not only politicized themselves, but they've become so intertwined with politics that they themselves, they were never meant to be political positions. They are all, no matter who appointed them, is now a political position. And you almost have to wonder, are some of these judges not doing what they think is the correct thing because it's, you know, it's the correct thing, or are they doing this as a way to better position themselves to hopefully get a promotion? And I believe that is what's happening. We were talking earlier, Mike, you know, when all this stuff happened with January 6th and everything, all these judges thought that the MAGA movement was dead. Trump was, there was no coming back from that. And so I think some of these judges, I'm not making excuses for them. They should never be a judge regardless if they did these things. I'm just saying, I think some of them made these decisions with their thought process of the MAGA movement is dead. I need to fall in line with the new people in charge so that I can continue being a judge moving forward. And now I think that you have some of these judges, like Chutkan, for instance, who historically has been anti-Trump as all get out, who is now siding with President Trump on a couple of issues. I don't think they're siding with President Trump because they think President Trump is correct. I think they're siding with President Trump because after the mandate, the landslide victory, they now are thinking, well, the MAGA movement is, and the Democrat bench is very weak right now. I believe the judges are sitting there thinking and having conversations. The MAGA movement is going to be around for probably the next, at least the next 4, probably the next 8, maybe even 12 years. We better fall in line with the MAGA movement if we want a chance to get promoted. And that's wrong too. Just because they're making decisions I agree with, that is wrong. I wish we could look at these judges and I could say, you know what? I disagree with this person's view on things, but at least there's consistency. And I know that that's just that's the way, for some reason, their mind is interpreting the legal standing right now. No side can do that because none of these judges are doing that. These judges are kind of just going with whatever way the wind blows. I think this is a very, very dangerous place for our country to be in moving forward. And I don't know how you fix this.
I don't either. And I mean, I do think the time is now to start impeaching some of these judges because, like you just said, like Chutkan, she's the judge from this story. Everybody knows her from Jack Smith's investigations. But Obama judge refuses to block DOJ from firing deep staters, disappointing blue state AGs. So she's actually looked at the law, and I think this surprised a lot of the people that brought the case before, assuming she would just be like, oh yeah, Trump can't do this, blah, 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 to try to make him fight it further up the chain. Now we're also starting to see pushback from the Supreme Court, from John Roberts of all people, on some of these, making them justify their case before it goes to the Supreme Court, I assume to be thrown out from the tone of the letter. They already know this is illegal, that there's no grounds for it, but it's even it might get even more interesting than that. Let me go ahead and pull this. So I happened to see this morning, and there's Glenn Beck did a quick interview. If you guys want to check it out, it's up on YouTube, talking to Spicer about this. How did Trump so easily take over the Kennedy Center? Let's ask Sean Spicer. So when the Trump administration was exiting last time, before Biden was installed, Stephen Miller, I guess, approached a number of people, including Spicer. Sorry, I'm blanking on the other gentleman's name that was on this lawsuit with him, and Voight. But they said, well, why don't you sue the Biden regime after they fire you for this board appointment? So they did, and of course they lost. And this was actually just to set the stage. What they wanted was the courts to say that the president has unlimited authority to hire and fire who he wants to sit on these various boards, like in this example, the Kennedy Center. And now this includes a number of the people that these judges have tried to block their firing now would be under the same rule. but they have a legal background. They have court precedent now proving that Trump has the authority to fire these people. And they set this up right under their noses. Nobody noticed. And now they're pulling out this Trump card, if you will, to combat all these corrupt judges.
Well, I think it's awesome. So, number one, I don't believe, I know there's a lot of people out there, the whole 4D chess stuff or 3D chess, whatever it is. I don't necessarily believe that, but this was a, whatever the term is, the 3D or 4D chess move is what this really was. You know, the guy gets fired from the board appointment under Obama. They knowingly go in and sue, knowing that they're going to lose with the judge, you know, the DC judge who supports Biden or whatever. And so they know they're going to lose, but they do it anyway so they can set the precedent in hopes of President Trump getting back in office. Nobody thought anything of it. Nobody even mentioned this. President Trump gets back in office, goes to do the same thing, and now here they are saying you can't do that. And they're like, oh, well, here's the precedent from 2 years ago. This is awesome, man. I love this. This is truly a chess move, if you will. And I'm definitely going to give them credit for this one. This is a good move.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that also leads into our next story here that, you're going to see the media melting down about this today. President Trump goes scorched earth, fires all Biden-era U.S. attorneys. Well, you know who else did that? Bill Clinton. Not the Biden-era attorneys, but the Bush-era attorneys. So, again, there is legal precedent for everything that Trump's doing. They know it. They're going to win as these battles move forward in the court. And, again, Trump's made the point several times. How can you have attorneys working for you that aren't going to fight for your agenda, that are instead there to sabotage you? This doesn't make any sense to leave them in place. But to the leftists in the media, they're trying to cling to life any way they can right now. They want their people in power, and they're willing to ignore the rule of law, ignore precedent, and just make things up whole cloth to try to retain, this last little vestige of power to cling on so they can sabotage the American people.
That's right. Well, shout out to my fellow West Virginian Jim Bart here watching the show right now. Appreciate you. Sean in the Getter chat is laughing and says they thought they were going to get rid of Trump for good. And I'm laughing thinking about that. They did. They thought they were going to get rid of Trump for good. But really, Trump was just plotting and planning and making chess moves behind the scene, laying the groundwork for if this moment arrived that he would be able to do all the things he wanted to do. And I'm here for it. The other funny thing is, had the left not stolen the 2020 election from President Trump and the American people, they would be done with Trump right now. So every time you watch one of these little meltdowns from these left-wing extremists, just got to remind them, well, this is because you guys stole the election from President Trump and the American people. And I will say that those of us conservatives in the MAGA movement, we actually came out ahead. If I knew everything now that I knew, or if I knew then what I know now, I would be happy that they stole the election from President Trump and the American people, because 47 is way more based than the second term of 45 would have been, the one that they stole from us. He didn't know all the things that he knows now. He didn't know that. None of us did. And so now he's had time for these people to be fully exposed themselves. He's had time to actually personally go through a lot of these issues that we're dealing with right now. It's one thing to hear about it. It's another for you and your own family to personally go through it. And it allowed him to get rid of all the snakes, if you will, that he can't trust, who had infiltrated his circle, and rebuild that circle back. And so I think that overall, we as a MAGA movement have actually won this battle in terms of them stealing the 2020 election and now granting us this opportunity to have our second term in 2024 instead of 2020. I think it's way better for us.
Yes, I think
have a new product or idea, whether it's already in production or just a concept. Whether you're an individual, a small business, or a medium-sized company, our upcoming show on Patriot TV is here to showcase it to millions and launch it in a big way. We're looking for businesses like yours to feature your product on our new show and pitch it to over 6 million followers, eager to support like-minded businesses. Whether it's a single product or a new product line, we have a platform to skyrocket sales. With powerful Patriot TV ads, targeted direct mail, and the influence of our dynamic show hosts,
your product will get the attention it deserves. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Email us now at advertise@patriot.tv to secure your spot and watch your sales take off.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Thank you for staying with us. And again, the best way to support our program and all the programs on Patriot TV is by supporting our sponsors. Go out, give Cardio Miracle a try. I've been using it now for a few weeks. I've been really impressed with the results, especially at the increased energy level and the decrease in the amount of coffee I'm drinking every day. I'm sure my heart thanks me for that. The guys, before I accidentally sent us to break, I keep my hand on these stupid buttons and then move my hand because I was making a point and bumped the go to break button. But anyway, what I was trying to say is, I think I think Trump has probably accomplished more in the last few weeks. It'll be 4 weeks this I guess next Monday. But there's been more accomplished than we would have seen accomplished in 4 years had Trump been given his term, the 2020 election not stolen. It would have been more of what we saw for 4 years, them fighting back every way they could in the courts, media onslaught that never ended. Instead of gaining the momentum we have now, because there would not have been this kind of plan. He had 4 years to figure out how to dismantle their system in a way that would show the American people what's really going on, and that's why his popularity continues to rise, and there's more and more support for the things that he's doing. But let's go ahead and pull this next story, because again, yet another victory. Federal Trade Commission cuts off far-left American Bar Association, the lawyers' wing of the Democrat Party, bans appointees from any involvement. And this, again, what we should be doing. The Bar Association went to war with justice, with our Constitution, when they tried to disbar attorneys just for defending people like Donald Trump, Carrie Lake, and others on the right. So instead of allowing things to play out through the court, allowing people the legal defense they're entitled to, the Bar Association is the one that's been behind a lot of this. And they should be excluded going forward. They don't care about the Constitution, and they're supposed to be there for as sort of like a I don't want to say moral authority, but they're to keep lawyers, being ethical. And unfortunately, that's disappeared. There is no ethics from lawyers. That they don't believe everybody has a right to defense anymore. Instead, they want to politicize everything, and for that, they're going to pay the price.
Well, that's exactly what it comes down to at the end of the day. They are no longer doing what they were supposed to do, which is to make sure that things are being done ethical, and they have turned in and been weaponized by the left as to another just political arm of the Democrat Party, if you will. And so the fact that that attorneys had to be fearful of losing their license for defending not only President Trump, but J6ers, parents at school board meetings, people who prayed at abortion clinics over the last 4 years. I had attorneys who refused to take my case with January 6th because they were fearful that they would lose their careers. And if you notice, a lot of these attorneys who are taking these cases are all older, meaning they can retire, they've already built wealth, all these things. Very few young attorneys did it because they were fearful, and I'm not saying they're wrong for doing so, by the way. I'm not blasting them by any means. I'm saying this to make the point of how weaponized the Bar Association really has become. So I think it's great. We need to keep these people out of any sort of involvement moving forward.
Exactly. Don't let their political indoctrination, this poison, infect the veins of future attorneys and of our judicial system in general. So Good. I'm glad they're paying the price. And, we did see a few people step forward, like Alan Dershowitz and others who, very clearly on the left, but saw exactly what was going on, and that these people are ignoring the Constitution, ignoring the laws, and ignoring this legal tradition even that we've had in the United States of allowing everybody a right to defense before the courts. So I'm glad this is going forward. We need to see more of it. The left doesn't really care about the Constitution or the rule of law when it applies to them. And there's a great article over at the Blaze right now. 5 times Democrats ignored the courts, but no constitutional crisis cries back then. Excuse me. Now, the first one of these is pretty obvious. So I'm going to pull up my phone, or I've got these on here. Biden buys votes with student loan scheme. And again, we saw AOC and others go out there and defend it and even say that they should outright ignore what the courts were saying. This article just popped up. These stupid pop-ups. Next, let's go down to, my phone's not going to cooperate and let me view the article. But, it's a pattern of behavior. We've seen them over and over again. Ignore the courts, ignore the rule of law when it's politically convenient for them, or they just want to try to make a point and ignore the rule of law, the Constitution, and the decision from the judges. They actively over the last several years have talked about expanding the Supreme Court, that somehow the Supreme Court has become unconstitutional because it's checked their power. So they don't care about the rule of law or anything else or the Constitution unless it serves their narrative. Otherwise, they'll willingly burn our system to the ground.
Absolutely. Well, it is funny how the left only cares about these things when Republicans are in charge. They don't care about any of these other things when it's their people doing it. It is absolutely fascinating. Divergence Teen brings up a really good point in the Rumble chat. Divergence Teen says 4 stolen years to the Republic's benefit, 4 years to awaken our people from apathy, and we've got 4 years to get the right people in place for real change. And that is exactly the position that we find ourselves in right now through all of this. And I do want to quickly say that the honeymoon is almost over in terms of President Trump and the elected Republicans in the Senate and the House. Right now, I believe that we did have a little bit of a few scuffles, if you will, in terms of appointments. But I think that they were willing to fall in line on the appointments, the senators especially. I feel like they were more willing to hold their nose and do that a little bit easier than moving forward. Like right now, President Trump has already come out. There's a House spending bill and there's a Senate spending bill that have been proposed. Lindsey Graham proposed the Senate version, if you will, and President Trump has already come out and said that we do not need to pass the Senate version because it does not include the Trump tax cuts. Also, Senator Lindsey Graham included money for illegal immigration as well as Ukraine in that thing, but no tax cuts for the American citizens. That's what Lindsey Graham just proposed. But President Trump's already come out against that and is supporting the House version. These are where the real battles are about to start beginning. I know we've had a lot of fun over these first 30 days. It's been a blast. I've loved every minute of it. But we're getting ready to, in my opinion, the real battle is getting ready to begin with the MAGA Republicans having to take on the globalist, warmongering, neocon, old school country club Republicans who want to subvert and go against the MAGA movement, against the MAGA mandate that's been delivered by the American people. That's what's next on our agenda.
Well, I wonder, too, how much of this Doge investigation is going to play a role in that, too, especially with Lindsey Graham amnesty and some of these other undocumented Democrats want to try to stand in the way. If they were getting kickbacks from these, that's going to make it a lot more difficult for them to hold the line and hold their position. The American people want change. We don't want illegal immigration. We want our tax system reform. We want permanent tax cuts. We want cuts to the IRS. We want to stop spending money on foreign wars. It's all going to stop, whether they like it or not. If that means we have to shut down government for a while to do that, well, I guess that's what we're going to have to do. And if we do have to shut down government, I don't see any reason at all that we should give people back pay for the shutdown this time through. These people know exactly what's at stake. They know where the American people are. They know what the agenda is, and they better get behind it or pay the price.
The only people who should get back pay moving forward would be our military members if they're done that way again. And honestly, I think that they should should definitely be given that opportunity. I know that they've talked about giving our military members that sort of back pay. I think they deserve it. I think it'd be an awesome gig for them. I mean, think about it. It's been 4 years, if you will, of back pay while they've been working a regular job. That's a pretty sweet gig if you're a military person who's wanted to take that chunk of change, if you will. And I support it 100%. That's another thing. I was telling my wife about this just yesterday. Actually, she follows politics through me. She's not really super political. We were just talking, and I was explaining to her, I was like, I would not, don't get me wrong, I want the tax cuts. I want more money in my own pocket. But the money that's frustrating right now is the money that's being the government waste, fraud, and abuse that we're finding while we have our own things that are being neglected here at home. So, for instance, I wouldn't care as much if they're taxing me the exact same amount of money that they're taxing me now if they doubled the pay of our military members. And I'm not talking about the high-ranking generals. I'm talking about the boots on the ground military members, the guy who's sleeping in the dirt over there right now, holding a picture of his family. I'm thinking about getting emotional, thinking about holding a picture of his family, who's back home and he's fighting to save our country for $40,000 a year. That person, I'll be okay if you tax me what I'm getting taxed to give that person a pay raise that they deserve. And the same thing, I'm okay with you taxing me if you're taking that money and you're putting it into the VA to take care of these people. Like, they should be treated so well that you have young people walking around and they're looking and they're like, man, I don't even know what these people make, but just for the health care alone, when I get older, I want to join the military. That's how good our VA should be. I'm okay with you taking the same amount of money out of my pocket that you're currently taking if you're actually going to do those sorts of things with it, if our roads are well taken care of, if we can fly safely in this country without having to worry about crashing over some sort of a lack of infrastructure. We have to worry about roads or bridges falling apart and trains derailing over incompetence for DEI hires and over the money being sent to other things. As long as my money's not being sent to allow illegals to invade our country. It's not about the money for me. It's about what you're doing with my money and going against things that are destroying this country, as opposed to using that money to help the very people who are building and protecting this country. That's what it's about for me. And that's what's frustrating to me about this whole thing surrounding government waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing is we really, in reality, we should be able to increase the pay for our military members and can still issue tax cuts to the American people, especially when you counterbalance it with all the waste, fraud, and abuse that's just been found so far. And this isn't even getting into making other cuts in personnel and modernizing things and trimming down the burden of our federal government and returning power to the states. I mean, in reality, we should be able to pay our military members properly, keep them equipped, give them the health care they deserve, and still reduce the tax burden on the American people. Because the problem now is so much of our money is either mismanaged or literally just shoveled into a blast furnace, never to be seen again, spent on these wasteful programs. So, I mean, we're right now just at the start of this. And that really should be the message going forward for Lindsey Graham or anyone else that wants to continue to spend the money on these programs and just useless or where it's directly against the interests of the American people. Like, the only money going towards illegal immigration should be for the Border Patrol and more funds for deportations right now. Otherwise, we don't need to be spending any money to house illegal aliens in the United States. Zero. And we also should be reforming welfare and other rules so they are not allowed to dip into those systems under any circumstances. It should be a felony for both them and for whoever authorized them and walked them through and put them onto this program. If they're not a U.S. citizen, they shouldn't be stealing our tax dollars. That needs to end immediately. And it wouldn't take that much money out of the grand scheme of things to increase the pay to our soldiers to where it should be.
That's exactly right. I know we're almost out of time, so I just want to say thank you guys for all watching and hanging out with us. We really, really appreciate all your support. As always, guys, like, share, subscribe. It doesn't matter what platform you're on, whether you're on X or Getter or whatever else. Click that share button. It helps us more than you could imagine. And if you're not already following the account that you're watching it on or subscribe to it, please do so. It really helps us more than you know.
Yeah, and actually, if you guys want to do us a huge favor, go follow the X America News Rumble account. We have we're working on something with Rumble right now. We just need to get subscribers over there. It's a new account, and I know a lot of you guys are probably watching on the other existing Rumble accounts we stream to, but we really need to build that one up because we have some big plans in the future there. Because it won't just help our program; it'll help everybody that's streaming on X America News now. But guys, again, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we'll